Good evening. Thank you for attending our virtual Board of Adjustment meeting. We appreciate your patience and understanding through this time. For the public who would like to participate in this public hearing and are not already connected and able to audibly communicate with the board, please call 407-665-7443. Staff will provide information on how to participate. In the event that a speaker has lost connection while communicating with the board, the applicant will need to reconnect to the webinar. The board will determine whether or not to continue the agenda item to the end of the hearing as not to delay the meeting. All public comments will be audio only, no video. When the public comment period arrives on the agenda, the chairman will ask for anyone to speak in support of the item to raise their hand. Use the raise hand feature and wait to be recognized. The webinar host will unmute your microphone. Persons joining the meeting via phone can use the virtual raise hand feature by pressing *9 on the phone's keypad. Board members and staff will be visible. The video option is disabled for applicant and members of the public. This meeting will be conducted in the same manner that we would in a regular meeting. Staff will introduce each item for consideration. The applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of their request. Those in opposition to the request will be heard next. The applicant will be given a chance for rebuttal. The board may ask questions of speakers or staff members. At the conclusion of all speakers, I will then ask the board for a motion. Once a motion has been made and seconded, discussion will be closed to the floor. Following board discussion, a vote will be taken. During voting, board members who do not cast objecting votes are considered to have voted in support of the motion. Once the board has voted on your item, you may leave the meeting if you wish. Speakers should identify themselves clearly for the record by stating their name and address. Comments should be restricted to pertinent information regarding the agenda item under discussion. Speakers should mute televisions and computers to limit background feedback while speaking. Please be aware that information such as pictures, site plans, letters, etc., presented at the public hearing will be kept by the clerk as part of the public record. Individuals will be given 3 minutes for their comments. If you are speaking on behalf of an official group, you will have 6 minutes for comments. Any person aggrieved by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may, within 15 days, file an appeal to the Board of County Commissioners, the Planning and Development Division of the Development Services Department. Okay, we're ready for our first item.
Good evening. For the record, Hillary Payton, Planning and Development. Item number 1 is a variance request for 2000 White Pelican Terrace, located in the Riverbend at Cameron Heights subdivision. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. The request is for a north side street setback reduction from 20 feet to 10 feet for a privacy fence in the Cameron Heights plan development. The subject property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces east on White Pelican Terrace, and the north side of the property facing Looking Glass Place is where the variance is being sought. The subject request is to bring into compliance the construction of a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence 10 feet from the side street property line, extending 10 feet into the required 20-foot side street setback. The fence is 10.5 feet from the sidewalk and 21.5 feet from the edge of pavement. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The Riverbend at Cameron Heights HOA has approved the fence at a minimum of 10 feet from the front of the house. 11 letters of support have been received from 10 of the surrounding residents. There is an open code enforcement violation number 20-115 for the subject fence as it was constructed without a permit. The applicant has since applied for an after the fact permit, resulting in the necessity of this variance. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Okay, do we have any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Sarah Rittwager, and I live at 2000 White Pelican Terrace.
Okay, is there anything you would like to add to what staff told us?
As of right now, yes, we do currently have our fence. I have a 21-month-old son. He was 18 months at the time. Very active little boy. Due to the world right now, we had chose a privacy fence. The HOA did not allow a wrought iron clear fence like the county had asked us to put up. And for his safety and just a better feeling of comfort in our home, we went with the 6-foot vinyl, not realizing that that would be an issue with the corner lot, as when we purchased the home, we were told it would not be an issue at all and we could have any fence of choice. Had we had known that, we wouldn't have purchased the corner lot. By putting a 20-foot setback on the home, where that open lanai is that you see right there, it would mean that the fence would be flush against it. We would never be able to do the open lanai or screen it in at all. Had we put it at the end of the home, it would also then leave the lanai completely open and therefore kind of defeating the purpose of putting up a fence. So that would be all I have to say.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, so who ended up telling, who was it that had told you that it was okay? You had said you would not have bought corner lot. Who told you that that was okay, that you were okay to go ahead and do the fence?
The HOA approved it, and when we purchased the home originally, we had asked multiple times from the construction and the builder and the seller if we could put up a fence of our choice, and they said yes, completely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else, or is there anyone to speak in favor of the request? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
Wait, we have 2 people in support that raised their hand.
Right?
Kathy's just got to bring him over.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Okay, that was a misunderstanding. Someone accidentally raised their hand. So you can continue.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Hello?
Hello, my name is Jennifer Beecher. I actually raised my hand in favor.
Okay, are you in support of the request?
Yes, I am, and I'm a neighbor of hers.
Please give us your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, my name is Jennifer Beecher. My address is 4293 Looking Glass Place.
Okay, what is it you'd like to tell us, ma'am?
I would just like to say I was told similar things as they were told when moving into the home. The builder told me the same exact thing about being able to put a fence in, and at the time when I moved in, all of the corner lots, well, not every single one, but every lot that was on a corner with a fence was on the same setback. So it appeared that that was an accident. So the HOA approved the fence. And I have become friendly with her, and I know her son. And when she says that he's an active little boy, she's not lying. So it's definitely beneficial for her to have that fence for the protection of her son.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Mr. Hadaway?
Ms. Beecher, are you the same Ms. Beecher who is the applicant for the next item on the agenda?
Yes.
Right. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, is there anyone else to speak in support of the request? Okay, is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request?
You gotta turn your speakers off.
Taking back very bad. Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve by Mr. Beagley. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Beard seconds. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Hadaway.
You know, I know I'm the grumpy old man on these things, and we've had discussions with other applicants. My concern, and I may be a broken record because we've got two other applicants tonight from this neighborhood, is I like the land development code written as it is, because the more and more of these kinds of fences that we approve closer and closer to the road, we're going to start turning our neighborhoods into alleys. It's going to look like that end scene of Brazil. Have you seen that movie where people are just driving down the roads and there's just walls on each side? And I like the way our code was presented, or how it's written, to prevent that kind of thing. So we have neighborhoods. When you drive around and you see grass, you don't see vinyl or wood or things like that. And it's nothing against the applicant. And I appreciate that they were told incorrect things by builders, because man, that happens all the time. People buy property, they ask questions and reasonably rely on that, but that can't be a basis for us approving something. And so just, I'm going to vote against the motion, and just, that's where I'm coming from.
Let me ask this. Is there a distance that you would consider to be fair? Or you just, no?
You know, I think it's always circumstantial. If someone's out, you know, like say for example, in a rural area, and they're putting something behind their house and someone's not seeing it. But in these kinds of instances, especially, it's just, you know, I don't know if there would be a distance that would avoid kind of that things being turned into alleys, but that would also be, you know, beneficial to the applicant, you know, that would allow their little boy to run around. And it's, I don't know. I'd hate to be here bidding against this applicant. I don't think that's a fair thing for me to do.
No, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I mean, with the other side of what he's saying, though, is that, you know, underneath our definition of what we are as a board, is that it creates a hardship, and have to identify the hardship for that resident. The resident had bought in with that construction. Now, Jim, I agree with what you're saying, but it also did create it does create a hardship. Is that as the occupant homeowner even says, is that she never would have bought that corner lot had she known that was an issue, and that fence was going to come right up to that lanai where it is in her backyard. No one wants to see that fence, you know, right there. She was told wrong information. I think that's horrible on behalf of the builder that did that, but I don't think it's fair to go ahead and punish the homeowner because she was told bad information. I mean, especially with me with children, I get it, and they're at home and they need to run around, and that you don't want them in the street.
Yeah. Also, I think you're making good points, and I think what you're saying is perfectly reasonable and rational.
Right.
But let's think about what we did about last week's meeting with the applicant, or was it 2 months ago, out in the rural area. He said he was told by staff that if he bought that property, he could develop on it. And so I think if we start creating a precedent where people are allowed to circumvent the land development code solely because somebody gave them false information, we're going to start hearing that more and more from applicants. That's just me, though. I think you're being perfectly reasonable in what you say, though.
Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. We're going to do a roll call vote. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Beagley?
Approve.
Mr. Hadaway?
No.
And I vote no. Do we have a different motion? I personally would be willing to consider maybe a different distance.
Mr. Chairman, could we do, is it within, and staff can correct me or inform me on this, is that perhaps we could move to continue this and let the applicant, or maybe continue to the end of the meeting and let the applicant think about it and come back and tell us what they would be comfortable with?
Yes, we can move the item to the end, and I'll cue the board to bring it up again. If the applicant will stay in Zoom, we will then bring her up at the end of the agenda.
I'd like.
I'm
Go
just
ahead, I'm
not
sorry.
sure how. I'm just not sure, Jim, the practicality of that. The fence is already built, and I mean, and I'm sorry, and I know that she's got an open code violation for what it was, and it is. But I mean, literally, she would go ahead and say we move it, and she wants, instead of a 10-foot variance, we move it back to a 5-foot variance off. You literally have to redig the entire fence area and have to move it back 5 feet, which is going to be, in economic times right now, very unrealistic and it's not. I don't know. It's not one of those things that I would go ahead and say, hey, let's go ahead and have her dig up her whole fence. I mean, we don't know financially where anybody sits, but we know that the world right now is just financial times right now. It's bad. And we're asking a homeowner to rip it up. I mean, I understand what your point is, sir, and you do have a valid point. It's just, I think it's very impractical to go ahead and ask for a homeowner to go ahead and rip up a fence. It's already been done because of bad information she got from a construction. I mean, you could talk thousands of dollars for them having to go out, redig the posts, redo the fence, all to go back on 5 feet on a variance. And are you talking about the variance, Jim, or are you talking about the variance in the way of the 5 feet, 10 feet, or are you talking about just the material, sir?
Well, what I'm talking about is, based on our current vote, the applicant, the request is denied. If they don't get a yes vote, it's a no. And so, and we don't know what would work for this applicant. So I was just thinking from the perspective of, let the applicant think about it and come back to us. Now, you're right, doing something like that does contemplate moving the fence, and your argument, can't allow that to ever happen, and I appreciate that. But I think we're at a situation where they're going to have to just take the thing down anyway, where we are right now.
I know, but the constants of what I'm looking at right now, the constants, she's got a kid. The constant is that right now we are essentially still living in a very at-home world right now. The constants are, we don't know where job-wise are, financially, or anything else. I think that these are special circumstances that I hope that the two board members that did say vote no can kind of look at that and say, okay, hey, look, I mean, they might be financially independent. That's fine. But the fact is that what's done is done. The fence is built. She does have a kid. It is there. Asking them to move it back, I'm just going to ask for you guys to reconsider. It's just, in any other time, I'd say, okay, yeah, that's fine. But we're not exactly dealing with normal times right now.
Austin, you're making perfect sense when you're saying, but something to keep in mind is this runs with the land. And if we say yes to that, it's forever. Yeah. And we've got two other applicants in this neighborhood. One of them we're going to hear next.
Yep.
And and
granted, and that's fine, but I'm not worried about the two other applicants right now. I'm worried about what's currently in front of me right now. And I believe that what she's got right now does create a hardship that she was told improper. And I know we can hear this go round and round because we hear this every month of a developer, an installer, a seller was given wrong. They gave wrong information. And, we went round and round with this every month. We always go round and round with this. But I'm just going to ask the two other board members to go ahead and just reconsider that their no and just say, look, these are unparalleled times. And I don't know. That's just my opinion, sir.
Right. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if I made a motion, but if I did, I'll withdraw it.
I made the motion and it was seconded, and I think there were two no's, correct?
Right. The motion did not pass.
Okay.
I'm going to give the opportunity to see if we could come to an accommodation. So, bottom line is they could appeal it, but that's more time and money. So I wanted to see if we could come to an accommodation before we ended this. If we can't, then it's going to continue as denied. Basically, they're going to have to appeal.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, it's to Austin's point, which is a good one, is if we reach an accommodation, they're moving it and having expenses. And so I think and Austin, you tell me if I'm misunderstanding you. I think where you want the motion to be is just a yes, and that no other option is fair, or we shouldn't consider any other option.
I don't know. If the homeowner is willing to go ahead and say, okay, look, if it would tilt the needle one way or the other, and say, okay, if she wants to go back, something's better than nothing. But of course, I'm just one voice. So,
okay, let me do this. Can we get the applicant back on? I want to ask her a question.
The applicant is still on.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi there.
Hi. Let me
Hi.
ask you a question. We basically, where we're at right now is the motion has been denied, and you have that option of appealing it to the Board of County Commissioners within 15 days, and they could overturn our decision or reverse it. Or we could consider a different distance besides 10 feet, maybe 5 feet, something like that, and have to move the fence. What is your preference? Which way would you like to go?
So I'm a teacher, and
Mm-hmm.
right now I'm teaching in person, and well, I teach in Volusia, but your version of Seminole Connect. I am very nervous for what the future is for teachers all over, and I appreciate you guys hearing everything. 5 feet would make it very, very difficult for the lawnmower to go through. So financially, we're uncomfortable right now because I just don't know where everything is going to lie. We could make it work, but I'm not sure that the lawn people will help us out with that. They said they can't do much less than 5 feet, or I'm sorry, much less than 10. So that's where I stand on that. I can't lose my fence. I mean, when I get home from work at 4 o'clock, that's where my little boy goes. So
So I just want to be clear. Would you rather us allow you to go ahead and appeal it, or would you like us to consider a different distance?
Chairman, the board also has the ability to grant her the 5 feet, and she still can appeal that to the Board of County Commissioners.
I understand, but if it's not going to work for her at all, then there's no sense doing it.
Okay.
I wish I could talk to my husband right now, but he's watching the little one just to ask him.
That's why I was thinking of Mr. Chairman, of continuing it to the end of the meeting to give her, a few minutes to chat with her family and talk about it.
Let's go ahead and continue this to the end of the meeting. I'll give you a chance to talk to your family, and then we'll get a decision from you and we'll decide which way we're going to go with this, okay?
So moved.
I also wanted to bring up that it's $1,000 to appeal to the BCC. So they need to take that in consideration also. If it's a financial issue as well, they need to know that.
Okay.
It's a financial issue to move it too.
Yes. Okay. We'll continue it to the end of the hearing, and you can let us know which way you'd like to proceed.
Thank
Okay.
you.
What's the next item?
Item number 2 is a variance request for 4293 Looking Glass Place, located in the Riverbend at Cameron Heights subdivision. The request is for a west side street setback reduction from 20 feet to 10 feet for a privacy fence in the Cameron Heights planned development. The subject property is a corner lot and considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces north on Looking Glass Place, and the west side of the property facing White Pelican Terrace is where the variance is being sought. The subject request is to bring into compliance the construction of a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence 10 feet from the side street property line, extending 10 feet into the required 20-foot side street setback. The fence is 10 feet from the sidewalk and 15 feet from the edge of pavement. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The Cameron Heights HOA has approved, the Riverbend at Cameron Heights HOA has approved the fence at a minimum of 10 feet from the front of the house. 13 letters of support have been received from 12 of the surrounding residences. There is an open code enforcement violation number 20-116 for the subject fence as it was constructed without a permit. The applicant has since applied for an after-the-fact permit, resulting in the necessity of this variance. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Hello?
Hello, ma'am. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Jennifer Beecher. My address is 4293 Looking Glass Place.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to tell us or add to the staff presentation?
Sure. So when I originally moved into the community, similar story. When I bought this house, the biggest driver for me buying this house was to give my son a yard. So I've up to this point lived in apartments, and I'm a single mom. So buying this house was a big deal, and being able to have the corner lot was a big deal for him. I also have an 80-pound Australian Shepherd, and having the privacy fence was very important just because he barks at literally everything that walks by. Behind me, my neighbor has two big dogs. She has a golden retriever and a Labrador retriever, and you know, if my dog was able to see those two dogs in any way, it would create chaos in the community. Just because, you know, there's three big dogs there back to back. On top of that, just from a safety perspective, the privacy fence was important because of the fact that I do have a 7-year-old. And when I first moved in this community, I felt really unsafe because there would be people walking through my backyard just randomly. I know it sounds really strange, but people would be walking through my backyard, looking in windows. We actually had squatters in the community for a while, and there was like some very questionable activity going on with that. So that was a lot of the reasons why I wanted to get the privacy fence. When I looked at the setback requirements for it, the HOA would not allow the opaque fence on the corner lot. I had to have a privacy fence. And it's a similar situation with the open lanai. The fence with the 20-foot setback would be directly in line with the home, or it would be directly on top of the open lanai. On my lot, even though I have the fence at the 10-foot setback, there's still 15 feet from the street to the fence, so there still is a lot of green. I totally respect your opinion on being able to, you know, not have it look like alleyways, but there is still a good amount of grass. And my house, there's no fences on the opposite street, so it's all of the homes on the opposite side face directly to my fence, and there's still a lot of grass in the front yard. So I'm the only one that has a fence on this street. So there's still a lot of greenery. It still looks very pretty. I take great pride in my yard. It always looks really nice. So, I mean, I guess that's really it at this point. But those are all the reasons why I got the privacy fence. So.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
The same issue presents itself with the board. Are you willing to consider a lesser setback, to, for example, 5 feet instead of 10? Or would you rather, if you had to, appeal it to the Board of County Commissioner if it did not pass?
I don't understand, I guess, what appealing it means. So could you
It
explain
means
that
if
to me?
Board of County Commission, you can request that they review it and they can overturn our decision.
Is it so? And then what happens at that point if they don't
That's
overturn
it. Done.
But if they don't overturn it, then can I?
If they don't, then it's denied. If the board was to deny it, that is an option you have. Some people might say, listen, I can live with 5 feet instead of 10 if that will pass. And some people say, nope, I want 10 and that's it. And I'd rather appeal it if it didn't pass. I'm not saying it's not going to pass, but I just want your opinion.
Well, I guess my issue would be, well, financially is one thing. Again, like I said, I'm a single mom. I have one income coming into the house, and when I got that fence, it was a huge expense, and then I had to pay now for the variance on top of that, which was another $600. So this has definitely been an expensive ordeal, and I totally understand why I had to have to do the variance. I'm not upset about that. I'm just thinking financially, I just don't know if I can afford it. But then if I have to take the fence down, that's another whole, I mean, I don't know. Is there any way I can just continue to think about it?
Absolutely. We could continue this to the end of the hearing and give you a chance.
Okay.
Who constructed the fence?
My fence was done by Dave's Fence.
See, Dave Fence knows they're supposed to get permits, and then they would have came up at permitting. When they constructed it without a permit is what caused all this.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
not everywhere in the county unless it's the wire fence.
I'm sorry. With the 5-foot setback, my my gate on my fence is literally the width of the fence. So how would they, with my lawn guy, like how would he get into the fence on a 5-foot setback?
You'd have to talk to the fence company about the size. There's different size gates,
Okay.
but all right. So let's do the same thing. Let's move this to the end of the.
Mr. Chairman, does the applicant know if the same fence company is the one that built the agenda item number 1?
It's different fence company. I think she's
Hmm.
fence.
Unfortunately, it's very common. They just come throw the fences up and get out of there.
Regardless of what it is, I had spoken with one of our commissioners, and he had Commissioner Constantine actually had made notice that we actually, as a board, it would have to come from the chairman to instruct the staff to maybe write a letter to these companies as well. No matter what happens tonight, to write a letter to these companies that this had happened. I think is very important as well, because the only way we're going to stop these from happening and putting these homeowners and our residents in Seminole County in this predicament is they need to start learning that this is causing strife with their customers. And while they may put fence up, they're not doing it to the law of the county. And Commissioner Constantine had made mention that I think we need to, at order of our chairman, you, sir, to maybe ask the staff to write some letters to these companies when we start saying no to these, and
Right.
they haven't got any permits, that this has got to stop. I mean, they're just doing this and they're making a buck and they don't care what happens.
Mr. Chairman?
And I have no problem requesting that staff write the letters. If I need to do something to facilitate that, let me know what it is. I would be happy to do so. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Seeing how, question for staff and perhaps for the county attorney's office, considering we're now on our second applicant with this situation, we've got a third coming on later in the meeting. The question for staff is, do we have the ability and I'm just talking hypotheticals, that if we brought a motion to deny the applicant, but extend the deadline for when they would have to come into compliance to 6 months to a year from now, in a sense to kind of let them get past, hopefully, the mess that we're in right now, do we have the ability to do that?
This is Kathy Hamill. That is a code enforcement board, and I can get clarification from our county attorney, but I don't believe that this board can govern over another board and its compliance dates. But Mr. Chapak can confirm that.
Ms. Hamill has correctly stated that's beyond the scope of your powers.
Gotcha.
An action is vested in the code enforcement board.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Just for clarification, variances have to be taken on the specific and unique circumstances of each case. Although they are similarly situated in this particular fact patterns we have tonight, each variance has to be taken on its own merits and according to the evidence presented in the individual case. And a variance granted to one property does not necessarily serve as a precedent for another variance.
Right.
That's under general case law of variances. Each one is to stand on its own merits and be compared to what our code is and what they're asking for the variance from. So I just wanted to refresh the board's memory on that.
Right. Thank you.
Also for the board to be aware that code enforcement right now is being told during the coronavirus. So they're not active with the compliance dates at this time.
Okay. So the applicants requested a time to consult with somebody and think about it. Let's move this to the end of the hearing, then we'll hear testimony and make a decision. I'm not saying it won't pass, but I just want to know what is the applicant's preference if it does not, because if the applicant states that no, 5 feet or whatever is absolutely no, that can't work, then it doesn't do much good to consider that for the applicant. Okay?
So moved.
Let's go to the next item.
Item number 3 is a variance request for 5582 Ligustrum Loop located in the Aloma Woods Phase 4 subdivision. The request is for a rear yard setback reduction reduction, from 20 feet to 16 feet to construct an addition to an existing single-family dwelling in the R1BB zoning district. The subject sunroom addition will be 12 by 16 feet for a total of 192 square feet and will encroach approximately 4 feet into the required 20-foot rear yard setback. The Aloma Woods Phase 4 HOA has approved the sunroom addition. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Okay, are there any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Yeah, unmute you.
Oh,
The applicant can speak. She's unmuted.
Hello, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Marcia Thompson, 5582 Ligostrum Loop.
Well, good evening. Is there anything you would like to add to what staff told us?
Yes, so we hired this contractor. My husband is sitting here as well. And unknowingly, a copy of the legal description of the property was given to him. And unknowingly, they went over, I guess, into the easement. And
Into the setback.
into the setback, and that's something that
We don't want.
we determined, we found out later was not good and would be detrimental in the future should there be a construction of whatever in the back of us. And so we tried to cancel the contract with the contractor, and they were telling us that we have to go through this process, and that's why we're here. You can jump in.
We're not looking for an approval on a variance. We're just complying with the request of the contractor to apply for a variance. That's what we're doing. We don't want to construct something into a setback and some future date, something could happen where they have to run through it. So the only way we can terminate, we haven't started anything. They haven't come to start anything. Nothing is done. The place is the same as it was before. And the only way we can go for a refund of our funds is to apply for a variance, because that's part of their requirement that we apply for a variance. So,
okay, let me get this. I just want to make sure I'm clear. You have to apply for a variance so that you can meet the terms of the contract and request a cancellation.
That's correct.
That's what they're telling me.
Really, you're going through the formality of it for that purpose. You're really not intent on getting the variance, correct?
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay. That's a first. All right.
Well, I mean,
my point is
I'm good with it. It's just
they have a
12 years I've ever had somebody apply for a variance and said they really didn't want it.
no, well, they have a copy of the plan. They should not have gone 4 foot into the setback. They were provided with a copy of the plan. So why they did that, I don't know.
Okay.
But, I'm not one to go against the rules that are set forth.
Sure.
I like to comply with the rules.
I
So,
respect that. Okay.
so in order for us to do what we have to do, that's what we had to do. So
I suspect that we'll have no problem probably honoring your request, but let me go ahead and go through the hearing. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anyone to speak in favor of the request? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand. Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Whoa. The applicant's saying he doesn't want the variance.
Chairman, we do have somebody raising their hand in opposition. We have a James Fitzgerald.
Hello?
Okay, go ahead. Let me back up. Mr. Fitzgerald, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, James Fitzgerald, 5586 Ligustrum Loop, Oviedo, Florida.
Okay, what would you like to tell us, sir?
I would just like to oppose the application for the reasons stated by the applicant.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right. Now to the motion. The applicant is saying even though he granted the variant or he requested the variance, he doesn't really want the variance. And so I think what he's looking for is for us to deny the request. So your motion is to approve the request, which will give him the variance. Is that what you want to do? I just want to make sure we're clear.
Are you asking me, Mr. Chairman?
Didn't you make the motion?
I made the motion, yeah. So I'm glad you explained that because I was understanding something different. This is a first. So, okay, yeah, I will definitely change that motion then. If that's the way it is, then I move to deny.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to deny and a second. Any discussion? I just want to say it's in accordance with what the applicant is requesting. Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Deny.
You're denied?
Denying the variance, approving the motion.
Gotcha. All right. Mr. Bigley?
Aye, and approve the motion.
Okay. Mr. Hadaway?
Aye.
And I vote yes as well. So the motion carries. The request is denied. Applicant, good luck in resolving this with your contractor.
Item number 4 is a variance request for 4230 Orange Avenue, located in the Citrus Heights subdivision. The request is for a rear yard setback reduction from 30 feet to 10 feet for an accessory structure in the R1 zoning district. The request is to construct a 44-foot by 48-foot detached garage and workshop for a total of 2,112 square feet, 20 feet into the required 30-foot rear yard setback. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, do we have any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available to speak.
Okay, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Michael Murphy, 4230 Orange Avenue.
Okay, Mr. Murphy, what would you like to tell us?
Well, I have prepared something I'd like to read, if that's okay.
Sure.
I'm asking for just a variance for a better placement of the shed on the property, be more proportion to the property to where the house is located. If the placement is 30 foot out, it'll be right in the middle of the yard, creating useless space in the yard and of course less front yard area. We own property next door. Also, the entire street is family owned. They're big lots. It's rural. It's not a subdivision. I've spoken to all the neighbors and they're in favor of it. And I didn't know that they could speak, or they all would be here to speak if they could. The building that I'm wanting to put up is a very nice building. It looked very nice on the property, a nice addition to the neighborhood. It wouldn't cause any problems in any way. Just thank you for your consideration and your time.
Mr. Murphy, have you, I just want to be clear, have you spoken to the neighbor that's closest to the shed?
Yes, I have.
Because it's not that far from their house. And they're in favor of it?
They're fine with it, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Hadaway?
Mr. Murphy, I'm taking a look at an aerial photo of your property, and I'm seeing what looks like, and I could be reading it wrong, on the south side of the house there. There's a structure that looks like, is it something that's covering up an RV?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a carport, yes.
And that structure will stay there?
No, that's actually going to be moved at the time that the building goes up. I would more than likely put it over beside there. Of course, I'd get a permit for that. Move it over beside that to give us some more room over there. We're unsure of that. It may go away totally.
So looking at the photo that staff has just put up, yours will be a little bit your new structure will be a little bit south on the other side of that chain link fence.
Yeah, well, that's an older picture. Our lot goes all the way over. It's a whole nother lot. It goes over past where the pecan trees are at. It goes probably 15 foot past there. So yeah, it's a big lot. I had to incorporate both lots together when I came and applied for the variance to make it all under one tax deed. It's a big lot.
If you had to put it, you just mentioned the pecan trees, which I'm partial to. If you're having to build this thing consistent with the land development code, would you have to cut down either of those trees?
No, I would not.
That's good then. All right. Thank you, sir.
They mean a lot to my wife. She grew up in this neighborhood, and those were her father's trees, so no.
Oh, wow.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in favor of the request? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand. Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Beard seconds. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call vote. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Beagley?
Yay, approve.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yay.
And I vote yay. The motion carries 4-0. It's passed. Okay, next item.
Item number 5 is a variance request for 2040 White Pelican Terrace located in the Riverbend at Cameron Heights subdivision. The request is for a north side street setback reduction from 20 feet to 10 feet for a privacy fence in the Cameron Heights plan development. The subject property is a corner lot and considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces west on White Pelican Terrace, and the north side of the property faces White Pelican Terrace is where the variance is being sought. The subject request is to construct a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence 10 feet from the side street property line, extending 10 feet into the required 20-foot side street setback. The fence is 10 feet from the sidewalk and 20 feet from the edge of pavement. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The Riverbend at Cameron Heights HOA has approved the 6-foot tan PVC fence contingent on variance approval by the county. 5 letters of support have been received from surrounding residences. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available.
Would you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, hi, my name is Ashley Silva and my address is 2040 White Pelican Terrace in Sanford, Florida.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What would you like to tell us?
So similar to the other 2 that were applying for a variance, when I purchased this home, I've only been here for 2 months. We're coming up on 3 months. I was also told the same thing, that we can be 5 feet from the sidewalk. When we purchased the house, actually I have a video of the salesman telling me, because my daughter was recording everything when we came to look at our, we were told we had 5 feet from the sidewalk to where we could put our fence at. Throughout the whole process of our house being built, I was requesting a survey because I wanted to see the survey of how much property was ours. I was denied every single time, and I was told I could get my survey when we closed on the house, leaving me no choice but to have a house with a setback of 20 feet, not knowing that it was 20 feet. We were told a lie the entire time. Now that our neighbors here have gotten violations. We learned about it from them. So we went and applied for the variance before having our fence put up. Thank God, because I can't afford to pay for our fence being moved. And I went and I confronted the seller and the builder about being lied to, how we didn't appreciate being lied to, and sold a house under the impression that we could put a fence all the way to 5 feet. And I was told the seller didn't know, which I know that's a lie, because that's why our house was built on the 20-foot setback. They knew exactly where to build it. But now they had went back and HOA is no longer approving fences at 10 feet. Now they changed it. As you can see, my HOA approval letter is showing contingent on the approval of my variance. So that changed from there. So from now on, there shouldn't be no more homes being approved because of this, because of what's going on right now. And so just a little story about me. I have 2 kids, one 4-year-old with special needs. He bolts to the streets every day. Every day he runs out and I have to go chasing him. Like, a fence is necessary for his safety, for the safety of both of my children. And, you know, just up until recently, we had a case of squatters who were apparently drug dealers in the neighborhood and very dangerous. They just were removed a couple weeks ago. They were protected by the coronavirus. They weren't able to evict them until just now. So it was scary up until just a few weeks ago having our kids out. I think I wrote something else down. Oh, yes. So just like my neighbor, I wouldn't have purchased a corner lot, paid an extra $6,000 for this corner lot to have a fence put up along my wall of my house, which doesn't make any sense. For that, I would have purchased a middle lot and had more space on the sides and not had to have gone through all of this. So it's the builders, you know, wrong for selling us these houses. We had no, you know, knowledge of this. So I don't feel like we should be punished for them, you know, telling us false information. So thank you so much for listening. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I have a question for you. I can't state how the board's going to vote, but would you be open to a different variance, a lesser variance, or do you just have to have the 10 feet?
I mean, I can go for a 5 feet. To me, I don't really see the difference if it's going to be looking like Brazil, whether it's 10 feet or 5 feet. But if that's my only choice, I would go for a 5 feet. I mean, my safety of my children comes before anything. And, you know, so if I have to go for it, then I would.
Okay. I just wanted to ask, because that sometimes happens. Sometimes we modify requests and grant requests are different from what you requested. Okay. Thank you. Any questions from the applicant?
Well, the applicant is asking for 10 feet. The board can't grant her 5 feet, would actually be more of an encroachment, and the board can't grant more than what the applicant is asking.
I meant 15 feet.
Okay.
I was using it as an example, but 5 feet less than what she requested. Okay. I understand we can't go out closer to the property line. We can.
Right.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Hadaway.
Ms. Silva, I want to make sure I'm hearing things correctly. In your instance, you don't have a fence currently. You're applying to build a fence, right?
Right. We just moved in. It's almost 3 months that we've been here, so we haven't put anything up yet. We were going to get a fence, and then our neighbors all informed me about the violations. So we're going through the process now of getting the variance before having a fence installed.
Gotcha. Thank you, ma'am.
No problem.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Is there anyone else to speak in request? If you want to speak in support of the request, please raise your hand. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand. Okay, board, do we have a motion? And if you'd like to have some discussion prior to a motion, I would understand.
My opinion on this one does change a little bit in the fact the fence is not yet built. So there's not the financial burden that is going to take place with the other two. I'm happy to vote and actually make a motion for 15 feet setback right now.
Okay. So we have a motion for a 15-foot setback as opposed to a 20.
If the homeowners, if that's all the homeowner's gonna get out of the other remaining members, then I'd rather give her something rather than nothing. So I'll go ahead and second that.
Okay. Do we have any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm a big believer in a good compromise leaves nobody happy.
Okay.
Oh boy.
All right, Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Okay, Mr. Legally?
Okay.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. Enjoy your fence.
Thank you.
It's been approved at 15 feet, not 20, so it's 5 feet closer to the house.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, next item.
Item number 6 is a variance request for 7261 Lake Drive, located in the Lake Sylvan Estate subdivision. The request is for a rear yard setback reduction from 30 feet to 7.5 feet for an accessory structure in the R1A zoning district. The request is to construct a 36-foot by 50-foot detached garage for a total of 1,800 square feet, 22.5 feet into the required 30-foot rear yard setback. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
I'm present.
Yes, if you state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. It's William Segrist, 7261 Lake Drive, Sanford, Florida, 32771.
Okay, sir. What would you like to add to what staff has told us?
So I'm just kind of talking about the idea that the rear setback, I've got a unique shaped lot that's acre and a quarter, and it's not technically the rear of my property. It's somewhat of a side yard, and I've also adjusted things a little bit. It's not quite 7.5 anymore. After I've had some survey work done, and the way it's going to be positioned is it's approximately 19.5 feet. But I was just trying to bring to attention the whole idea that it's not genuinely a rear setback for the way my home sits on the property.
Right. The way they do setbacks, you have a very unique shaped property.
Yes, sir.
And so there's some rules that govern staff on what's a side and a front yard and a rear on those unusual property lines, and that's why it's being called that.
Yeah, and the other piece, and again, not to go into too much, but there are some adjacent parcels behind on my property line that are actually kind of what was a no man's land between my property and a development. And I technically have been paying property tax bills on there, and I forgot the terminology for it, but for about 5.5 years. I'm almost at my 7-year mark. So I don't know that there's specifically an adjacent parcel that would be able to object, except for my other neighbor, who I don't think is on here.
Okay. So you said that you don't need 7.5 feet anymore, that it's closer to 19.5 feet?
Correct. And I don't know if I can share my screen, but I've got a new survey that shows that on there.
Okay. So we like to grant the minimum request necessary.
Okay. Yeah. So then technically
the land, and somebody else could, if we say 7.5 feet, somebody else could build it 7.5 feet. So what is the minimum amount you actually need, leaving a little room for error?
Let's say 15.
15. Okay. All right. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Hadaway?
What will the use of the new structure be?
it's going to be for storage. RV,
Okay.
a future RV for the bride and I, or a boat that you might see in the picture there, but not that boat.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, this is Paul Chipock, County Attorney. I'd just like a little clarification. With the new survey, is the lot line moving, or is the placement of the building in relation to the lot line?
That's the placement of the building.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Yes, there's a lot line move that would cause another host of questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand. Okay. Do we have a motion? I would ask that you take into consideration that the applicant stating he doesn't need 7.5 feet anymore. He's asking 15-foot variance would be adequate.
Mr. Chairman, I interrupted. Please go ahead.
I was just going to approve with the 15-foot instead of 7.5 feet.
So you're making a motion that we approve the variance at 15 feet.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hadaway seconds. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Bigley?
Yay.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. Enjoy your building.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
Item number 7 is a variance request for 1827 Briarcliff Road located in the Tanglewood subdivision. The request is for an east side street setback reduction from 25 feet to 11 feet for a pool screen enclosure in the R1A zoning district. The subject property is a corner lot and is considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. Front of the house faces south on Briarcliff Road, and the east side of the property facing Little Lane is where the variance is being sought. The request is to construct a pool screen enclosure 11 feet from the side street property line, extending 14 feet into the required 25-foot side street setback. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Can you hear me? I don't know if you can see me or hear me.
We can hear you. We can't see you. We won't be able to see anything on your screen.
Okay.
Take your name and address for the record.
This is Rick Marciano, and my wife, Alinda Marciano, is here. And we are at 1827 Briarcliff Road.
Okay, what would you like to tell us?
I'd like to tell you that you're the most handsome group of people I've seen today.
Well, that's true.
I really don't have much to say. I got the privilege to be before you several months ago for the fence that we were able to put around the backyard, and I'm sure that nobody there is really familiar with my neighborhood, but this is just such a quiet little 23 home subdivision, and I only have one rear neighbor that would even be remotely seeing the pool enclosure, the screen. And finally, I really didn't even want a screen, but my wife, she just doesn't want to share the pool with all those frogs. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? All right. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand. Just so staff knows, the screen seems to be frozen. There it goes. All right. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Bigley, motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hadaway seconds. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Bigley?
Aye.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. Enjoy your screen closure.
Thank you.
Right. Next item.
Okay, can everybody hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Angie Califer, Planning and Development. Agenda item number 8 is for 1660 Carlton Street, is a request for a side yard east setback variance from 20 feet to 12.5 feet for a carport in the RC1 County Homes District. The subject property is located in the Knollwood Second Addition. The proposed carport will be 738 square feet, 18 foot by 41 foot, and will encroach 7.5 feet into the required side yard east setback. Letters of support were received from 3 of the adjacent neighbors. All were emailed to you earlier today. My screen is frozen, so I can't go through the PowerPoint. And the request for, there have not been any prior variances on the subject property. Is it going now? There we go.
All right. If I'm not mistaken, this is one where a neighbor initially objected and then withdrew the objection. And
Yes, he was under the understanding that there was a few things that were going to be different. He discussed it with the applicant and property owner and realized that what he was thinking was taking place wasn't taking place, and he sent an email to withdraw his opposition
okay.
that I sent to you guys earlier.
Right. All right. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay, the applicant present, please raise your hand.
The applicant is available.
Okay.
Hi there.
Hi, if you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, it's Tiffany Beers, 1660 Carlton Street.
Hi. Good evening. Is there anything you would like to tell us?
Yes, sir. So the reason why we would like to do this is we would like to cover our RV. We currently have an existing driveway that allows us to easily back the RV in. If we had to relocate it to a different location, it would involve cutting down. I'm so sorry. Somebody just came to my door. I'm sorry about that. It would involve cutting down trees. We currently have a well for our irrigation right there. And I don't trust my husband to make the turns and not mess up the RV. Let's see. Relocating the structure would also prevent us from being able to expand our home in the future, which we also think would add value to our home. We also have a current existing 50 amp plug that's already right next to the current driveway, the existing driveway for the RV to park on.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any questions for the applicant? Yes.
Okay.
We have no questions. Anything else?
No, I believe that's my plead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
Yes, we have someone in support.
Okay, if you state your name and address for the record, please.
They need to unmute. They still haven't unmuted.
Hello, if you have to unmute your phone or computer.
They still haven't. They have their hand raised, but they haven't unmuted their phone.
I think it says that you have to hit *6.
The phone number that ends in 534, if you can put *6 into your phone and it will unmute you. So we can confirm that there is somebody raising their hand in support of this.
According to my instructions. I'm just looking at the meeting instructions.
They still haven't unmuted.
It's possible they walked away too. I don't know. All right. Is there anyone else to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand. Okay. If we can't get them online, I can note that we have somebody in support of it, but we obviously can't hear them.
Right.
Is there anybody to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay. Board, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Mr. Bigley. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hadaway seconded. All right. Any discussion?
No, it wasn't me.
But that was
I'm sorry. I looked up and missed you. All right. So Mr. Beard seconded. Do we have
The
any?
beards make us look similar, so you know it's.
Yes, you know. It's the beards.
Mine's just lighter for some reason.
All right. All right. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Bigley?
Yeah.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. It carries 4-0. Have fun with your RV.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, agenda item number 9 is for 1592 Lake Markham Road. The request is for a north and south side yard setback variance from 10 feet to 5 feet for a boat dock in the A1 agricultural district. The subject property is located in the Gilio subdivision. The proposed boat dock will be 560 square feet and will encroach 5 feet into the north and south minimum required setback. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay. Is the applicant or any questions for staff? All right. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
We are here.
Yes, sir. You state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, this is Brian and Julie Schutte. We live at 479 Still Forest Terrace. We are relocating to 1592 Lake Markham Road, both Sanford 32771.
Okay.
We're building a house at the new property right now.
All right. Is there anything you would like to add to the staff presentation?
Yeah, well, this is a really unique piece of property because it was subdivided by Gilio, and the 2 lots then were sold with lake access. Our lot is closer to Lake Markham Road, and we have a 30-foot wide property all the way down to the lake. We own the lake out about 70 feet from the water line. And ultimately, with only 30 foot of water line, if we were to abide by the 10-foot setbacks on both sides, our dock would only be 10 foot wide. So I went to both my neighbors on the north and south. They signed variance letters. They're fine with, instead of 10 feet, 5 feet, they were fine going right up to their property lines, but I wouldn't do that. So we've designed the dock. It has not been built. We're holding off on entering a contract until we get the variance approved. So we appreciate you guys' understanding in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? All right. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay. Board, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Hadaway, motion approved. Mr. Beagley, you seconded?
Sure.
Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Oh.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. Enjoy your dock.
Thank
Yay.
you so much.
Leave us your emails. Come to the party. Thank you.
All right. I want to use the discretion of the chair, and we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll pick up. Okay? 5 minutes.
Block 3, Jesme Street. The request is for one, a front yard setback variance from 50 feet to 28.5 feet, and two, a side yard west setback variance from 10 feet to 9.5 feet, and three, a side yard east setback variance from 10 feet to 9.5 feet for a single family dwelling in the A1 agricultural district. The subject property is located in the Casavilla Heights subdivision, which was platted in 1957. In 1960, zoning criteria for A1 was established. At that time, the A1 lot area requirement was 10,000 square feet, and the lot width requirement was 100 feet. This rendered lots within the Casavilla Heights plat non-conforming to the A1 zoning criteria. Today's requirements for A1 is 43,560 square feet for 1 acre for lot area and 150 feet at front building line. The proposed single family dwelling will be approximately 2,354 square feet and will encroach 21.5 feet into the required rear yard setback and 6 inches into the required west and east side yards. The majority of the lots located within the Casavilla Heights subdivision are approximately 8,250 square feet. A lot size and width at building line variance was approved for this lot on October 22nd, 1990. There have been numerous variances approved throughout the Casavilla Heights subdivision. Based on the stated findings, staff recommends approval of the request, and staff recommends following the conditions of approval. And this concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant is available.
Good evening.
Good evening. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yep, this is Don Sharp at 4210 LB McLeod, Suite 101, Orlando.
Okay. What would you like to tell us, sir?
I think Andrew did a great job. This is a very unique property. It predates the zoning requirements. So, the future land use is designated as LDR, which, more fits this kind of neighborhood and definitely fits this lot size. And so the requirements that we're looking at going to kind of conform more to that future land use district. And like she stated, you know, a lot of the properties out here are kind of going for that reduced setback to you know, build a beautiful home in this area.
Okay. Do I have questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Board, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Okay, do you also include staff recommendation criteria?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second, sir.
Okay, Mr. Beagley seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Beagley?
Yay.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. Enjoy your house.
Thanks. Have a great evening.
All right, next item.
Okay, agenda item number 11 is for 5888 Pine Grove Run, a request for a rear yard setback variance from 15 feet to 10 feet for a screen room in the PD Plan Development District. The subject property is located in the Aloma Woods Phase 1 subdivision and is within the Aloma Woods Plan Development. The proposed screen room will be 700 square feet and will encroach 5 feet into the required rear yard setback. 2 letters of support and HOA approval were emailed to you earlier today. And there have not been any prior variances for the subject property. This concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Okay, if you state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, it's Linda and Brad Cluxton at 5888 Pine Grove Run in Oviedo in Loma Woods.
All right, and what would you like to tell us?
We are just looking to pour a patio in our backyard, and we're just looking for an additional 5 feet. Without the variance, it would only be 9 feet wide and not quite large enough for our furniture. And so that's it. We're just looking for an additional 5 feet of 10 feet from the setback instead of 15.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Beagley makes a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Beard seconds. Any discussion? All right. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Beagley?
Yeah.
Mr. Hadaway? You're muted, Mr. Hadaway.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 4-0. All right. Enjoy your porch.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next item.
Right, agenda item number 12 is for 750 Preble Avenue. I could be saying that wrong, I don't know. 750 Preble Avenue, request for a side street north setback variance from 10 to 0 feet for a privacy fence in the R1AA single family dwelling district. The proposed fence is 15 feet from the edge of pavement and there are no sidewalks in place. In 2007, a side street north setback variance was approved from 25 feet to 10 feet for a privacy fence. The request is for a variance to Development Order 07-300000024. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. And this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? Mr. Hadaway.
I apologize. Am I reading or listening correctly? This is what they're requesting to do is to replace an existing fence. What will be built will just be in the exact same place as the existing fence?
No, they want to go closer than their previous variant.
I did hear that wrong. Thank you.
I may have said it wrong, so if I did, I
No,
apologize.
me, not you.
All right. So to be clear, they had a 10-foot variance, and now they want to extend it to a 15-foot variance.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Jennifer Hughes and Larry Richards, 750 Preble Avenue.
Good evening. What would you like to tell us?
Well, I didn't understand the last bit of that conversation that Mr. Hadaway asked, but what we're looking to do is replace the fence that is currently there exactly where it is, which our understanding, I'm sorry?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Which we understand from our neighbors. We just purchased the home last year or 2 years ago. But we understand the fence has been in that same exact location for the last 3 owners. Other than obviously the cost of the fence we're concerned about is that we believe the pool plumbing is right where the variance, if not approved, would move the fence back to. So there'd be the additional cost of that. And then because we love our neighbors, if we also have to replace the fence to where the variance or where the line currently is, or where it's being said to be, that'll expose the back corner of his yard. So that will cost him some money to replace. And then of course, time is of the essence because we're in hurricane season and we prefer to get it done as quickly as possible.
Okay. So you just want to place the fence exactly where the current fence is?
Correct. Yep.
Any questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay. Board, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Hadaway, motion to approve. Mr. Beard seconds. Any discussion? All right. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Bigley? Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. Enjoy your fence.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the next item, number 13.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a special exception, which is agenda item number 13. It's for 4595 Howell Branch Road. The request is for an amendment to an existing special exception for an addition to an existing school. The original special exception was approved by the Board of Adjustment on January 10th, 2010 for a private school to include middle and high school students. An amendment to this special exception was approved by the Board of Adjustment on October 24th, 2011 to increase the number of students from 10 feet to 20, from 10 to 20 students and increase the number of staff members from 4 to 8. An amendment to the special exception was approved by the board on July 15th, 2013 to increase the number of students from 20 students to 40 students. The total building floor area on the county-approved site plan for the Walden Community School was 4,141 square feet. No building floor area shall be increased more than 10% without the Board of Adjustment approval. In 2015, an additional 342 square feet was added to an art room, leaving 72 square feet before exceeding the 10%. In 2020, the Walden Community School is now proposing a 400 square foot multi-purpose room for the existing students. There will not be an increase in the number of students, nor will there be an increase in staff. They're just exceeding the 10% and requesting the amendment to the special exception. Staff recommends approval of the subject request based on the following conditions: that the special exception granted applies only to the amended special exception site plan. The layout of the proposed uses must be substantially consistent with that which is depicted on the special exception site plan attached to the development order as Exhibit A. No building associated with the special exception may be increased more than 10% in size, that which is shown on the special exception site plan without Board of Adjustment approval. Prior to the issuance of development permits, a final site plan that meets the requirements of all other applicable code requirements, including Chapter 40 of the Land Development Code, must be approved. And they are going through that process now, but that sent them back here to us today. The special exception will be supplemental to the special exception granted through Development Order 0932000019, 32000010, and Development Order 13-000009. Oh, there's a lot of them here. And Development Order 13-32000009 will remain in full force and effect except for the extent that the terms therein are inconsistent with the development order. And this concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, this is Gary Hassan. I live at 1909 Oakhurst Avenue in Winter Park. I'm actually not the applicant. Dr. Carol McCulca is the principal of the school and the owner. It just so happens that tonight was their 29th wedding anniversary, so they're out celebrating. But I've been a consultant and a friend of the school for the last 10 years. And the desire for the additional building, which by the way is only 342 square feet, not 400, but they just want to be able to divide the students up by age better, to have an additional classroom space. And then secondly, they thought with the coronavirus, it would also give another area to separate students from students. So that's basically the desire, the need that they have. There are actually less than 40 students this year, but it'd be very helpful to them to have this additional building.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from Mr. Gary? All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay. Or do we have a motion?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bigley, motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hadaway seconds. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Bigley?
Yes.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
I vote yes. The motion carries 4-0. All right.
Well,
So-
thank you very much, Board.
Item 1.
Aw.
Judy.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
Okay, is this one it? Yep, there we go.
Yes. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
Okay.
Hi there.
Hi. Okay. So you wanted some time to consult, I believe, with your spouse. What would you like? What was your decision?
Well, it is, thank you for taking the time to listen to us and for offering the 15-foot setback. I do understand that this is a code and codes are meant for a reason. I do ask, though, that you please reconsider denying our fence. Our HOA is no longer approving fences on corner lots without the appropriate variance first, which they should. My neighbor and I would be the last two with a 10-foot setback. We have a very active Facebook forum and would be happy to inform other corner lot purchasers of this, just as we inform the HOA, the sellers, and the builders of their error. I can't live without my fence, but because it's just not gonna work. However, I do ask, how long do we have to move our fences 5 feet? Because funds are quite limited since we just moved in here and closed in mid-April. So how long approximately would we have for 5 feet?
Okay. That is a code.
Mr. Chairman, I think as Steph had shared with us that all code enforcement actions have been told by executive order from the county chair.
Right.
So until I guess we're past this, those are all told.
So it's not I can't give you a firm answer because it's not under our control. It's a totally separate board that handles code enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me I'd like to have some discussion with the board.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. I've been thinking about this the entire time. Obviously, I can't make a motion. I understand the situation they're in. And I've also been very adamant over the years about fences being too close to the sidewalk and property line and such. And I agree 100% with Mr. Hadaway's logic. I personally am willing to reconsider this time. If somebody wants to make an appropriate motion.
I'll go ahead and make the same motion I did before, Mr. Chairman, was I move to approve.
Second that.
Second. Sorry, my wife came home and the dog woke up. It seems to be a common occurrence. All right. Okay, so Mr. Bigley, you were making a motion to approve it.
That's correct, sir.
Do we have a second to the motion?
Second here.
All right, do we have a discussion? And yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have respect for this entire board and I have respect for everyone's input, and just a few thoughts to share. I empathize with this applicant. My wife is a 6th grade English teacher. I understand what's going on right now. I've raised 3 children. I understand what's going on. What we will approve today will run with the land. This is something that'll be a permanent part of this neighborhood. And county attorney is correct that every single application is considered on its own merits. There is no precedent, but we're human beings, and the audience are human beings. And even though it might not have legal weight, we're going to remember what we did and why we did it. And other applicants are going to come before this board, and they're going to say, remember this? And the reasons why we vote yes will be used by other people to get us to vote yes. And I would suggest that we not put ourselves in positions to be hypocrites. And I know this is difficult, but I think that our job is to look out for the overall good of the community as a whole. And just for that reason, I still feel the way I did at the beginning of the meeting.
I understand 100%. Trust me.
I also understand what were you saying, Jim, as well, is that as the county attorney had advised us as well, is that every case has its own merits. So million people as we want in here to tell us that and say, hey, you remember what you guys did on August 24th? We can come back and say, look, it's every case has its merits. That's why the case that was said this on the second agenda item when we get to the young lady next to us is, well, we know it's going to be the first one. It's going to be kind of like the first one. I don't care about the first one. This is, I think everybody on this board takes everything on a merit by case by case scenario. And that's just how I view it. So, I mean, like I said, difference of opinions, Jim, and there's nothing wrong, nothing right. It's just an opinion. That makes it, that's a good thing. I mean, different flavors are a good thing. So I just think that judging it, you know, I believe that the first agenda item and second, we'll just talk about the first right now, as everybody's on their own merits. And I think that she was given really bad information. And as I said before, and I'll restate it as well, and hopefully Angie can hear me as well, is that I hope that the county can write a letter on behalf of the county, on behalf of the chairman of this committee, to find out who her company was that did install this, as well as agenda item number 2. And I hope the county writes a letter, because basically putting them on notice that, hey, you're lucky that either this got approved or denied, but the county also has to take a stance on this as well, and basically has to write a letter saying, basically, we're on to you. We've got your number now. You've got to start complying.
I have a question for Paul real quick.
Yes, sir.
Sir, this is just for information for the applicants now and in the future. When a contractor who's required to get a permit does not do so and they do the work, I understand that the applicant is required, still responsible for correcting it. But what is the process if they want to formally file a grievance or complaint against them? Because this happens all the time.
Yeah, we do have the construction licensing board, and I believe that would be the appropriate forum for that. So they should contact the building department.
Okay.
Further information on that.
I want people to know there is a way that you can file a grievance against these companies, and the county will follow up on it, because it does.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
On that point also, I'll tell you just, and you may already know this, something I see all the time in the world that I live and work in is contractors will say to applicants, this is fine, don't worry about it. If we file for a permit that's going to cost you this amount of money and time, we just won't do that. Trust me. And you know, people mean well, but just that just tells you that's part of what goes on with these things too.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Not everybody out there does things like they should, and then other people pay the price for it. Okay. So we have a motion and we have a second. Any more further discussion? All right. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Bigley?
Yay.
Mr. Hadaway?
No.
And I'm going to vote yay. So the motion carries 3-1.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 2. I do not believe we had any presentation really on this one. So I'd like to go ahead. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
The applicant's available.
No?
Hello,
All right. I just want to make sure. You state your name and address for the record again.
it's Jennifer Beecher and it's 4293 Looking Glass Place.
Okay. What would you like to tell the board?
Well, I got to speak to you guys before. I know that we didn't go through a formal process, so I don't know. Do you want me to just kind of reiterate what I said before? I don't want to, I mean, what would you guys like me to?
It's up to you. Whatever you would like to tell us right now is fine.
I mean, I would just like to ask, for you all to please reconsider again. Financially, I really can't afford either option. The fence, again, it's for the protection and safety of my 7-year-old and also for my dog and for the neighbors as well, just to keep peace within the community and also for my dog getting out. I mean, the fence is really a necessity to me. I really need to keep the fence. And financially, having to move it or file for an appeal at this point is very difficult for me. With everything that's going on in the economy,
And I mean, I would just really respectfully like to ask if you could also reconsider for my situation as well.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Please raise your hand.
None.
Okay. Board, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Beard's motion to approve, Mr. Beagley seconded. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Beard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Beagley,
Yay.
Mr. Hadaway,
No.
and I vote yay. It carries 3-1. Okay. Enjoy your fence.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You ought to consider formally following up on filing a complaint on the contractor.
I will, absolutely. Thank you for the advice.
I would second that as well. Please do. The only way that that'll stop from another incident is, the county can do something as well as we can make a recommendation to staff, but you are the customer. And I think it's important to write reviews, do whatever you need to do, go to the company, whatever, but you got to make some noise on this because, this would have been a very costly mistake.
Yes, absolutely. I will for sure. Thank you.
All right. Next is our minutes. Do we have any additional changes to the minutes?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. Do you have a second? Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Bigley, second. Discussion? All right. Mr. Beard?
Yay.
Mr. Bigley?
Yay.
Mr. Hadaway?
Yes.
And I yes, it carries 4-0. Anything else for the good of the order?
Mr. Chairman, if you could, once again, I'm formally asking you if you could please, as the commissioner had stated before, if you could please instruct or ask the county staff to please write the letters to these two companies for the.
I already did.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hadaway?
Just to repeat myself, I mean this sincerely. We've had some disagreements tonight. I do have respect for every member of this board, and my feelings are not hurt or in any way with the back and forth of things. And I hope you all feel the same way too, because I do like the way this board works, and we do work always towards the betterment of the community.
No worries, sir. Trust me. I don't mind when somebody votes against me at all. That's why we're not one person. All right. Hey, Kathy?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me a call when we're done? I just want to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Do you have my number?
I will get your number and I will call you.
Okay. Perfect. All
Got
right.
it.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank y'all. Take care.